Hey everyone, it's Justine and welcome to part 2 of my organizing my craft space using the KonMari method. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, there's a link below in the video description if you'd like to go check that one out. Today I'm going to be looking at a couple of different other categories. As I described yesterday, when organizing your craft space, it's better to make micro categories, and those are going to vary for your craft room. So just make yourself a simple list on a post-it note of the categories that you have in your craft room to organize. For example, mine are stamps, inks, dyes, paper, stencils. Then I go on to more embellishment type things, sprays, embossing powders, mousse, and then into markers and pens and all those things. Do what works for you and what works best for your craft room. Also wanted to mention there are some videos you might want to check out on my channel that have to do with organization. So I have a whole series on organization from what I've done in the past. I also have videos that talk about the stamps I will never purge, and that's going to give you a little more insight about how I decide to purge a stamp or keep a stamp. I also have other videos that are really helpful, like the stencils that I find really unique. I also have one that is all about 5-minute cards because I like to create quick cards and what stamps allow me to do that. And those types of videos that I have, and I also have one coming up in the future, are the ones that really explain my method in what I enjoy using. I just thought I'd mention that before we get started.
Okay, I'm in full purge mode now. And, you get a little tired after a while, so take a break if you need it and, spread it out over multiple days, but don't do one thing a day. Do a few. Make sure you have that feeling of accomplishment each time. So don't mind me, my room looks like a disaster now. So I would like to come on and admit, hi, my name is Justine. I have an ink pad problem. So I recently sold about 200 mini ink pads because I don't need every brand, I don't need every color, it's ridiculous. And I think in total, I have over 700 ink pads. I'm not even joking. Do you know how much money that is? That's insane. So anyway, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with all these ink pads. So I made a few executive decisions. So my Catherine Pooler inks, those are my favorite ink pads, fact of life. I love the way they stamp. So those ones are staying there. I'm on the scrapbook.com card design team. Am I allowed to announce that yet? I don't even know. So anyway, I'm also doing lots of work with scrapbook.com and I love their inks too, so I am going to keep the entire set of those because that's necessary business-wise. I love my Distress Oxide inks for obvious reasons. However, I know some people have full set syndrome, and if that brings you joy, having the full set of Distress Oxide ink pads, then that's great. However, I know that I don't use the majority of my greens and the majority of my browns because I'm not a vintage stamper. I'm not that Tim Holtz mixed media style. So I know I am actually thinking I'm gonna get rid of some of my Distress Oxide ink pads. They don't really bring me joy, those colors, even though it gives me a little anxiety not having the full set. But regardless, I'll survive. I also have the entire VersaFine Claire 24 ink pad collection. And I love these inks. These inks are awesome. They're very comparable to Catherine Pooler in how they stamp, the vibrancy, the coverage, and all that. I really do love them. But I find, unfortunately, that I can't use them all the time because either I'm designing for a certain company or I'm using a different ink pad or whatever. So I think it's time to part with these, even though I've never really used them. So that actually makes me sad because these are a really quality product and I really love them. And that's what I have to say about all the stamps I just got rid of as well. Quality products, it's not even have to do with me liking them or not liking them. It has to do with what is practical for my space, what I'm going to use in the future, and what I can accommodate with my time. So yeah, let's see how the ink pad process goes. All right, guys, I finished my inks and I made some decisions. As I said, I got rid of actually the majority of my Distress Oxide inks, which shocked me because everyone knows how much I love them. But I realized that the colors that bring me joy are those vibrant colors, the ones that I reach to every time. So I managed to reduce my collection to, I believe, half, about 30 of the inks, and I placed the other ones in a pile for a giveaway to a friend of mine. And I am also purging a couple of the ones where I had brands of the full-size inks and the mini inks. I got rid of one or the other depending on which one I tend to grab for more. Sometimes it was the full size, sometimes it was the mini. It depends on the brand. In the meantime, I also went ahead and did my adhesive.
All right, some before and after photos. So I just wanted to mention this is an extremely old photo. So I did have the 3 ink organizers as shown in the video, but they were all full but when I had done this purging process. So even though this is an old photo, just know that those were all full. And I also had 3 ink organizers at the time. I moved to 4 ink organizers, and then now you can see I have 1 here on my surface, and I also have 1 on my desk for easy access. So I have the scrapbook.com inks as well as the Distress Oxide over here, and I have the Craftroom Pooler, and then I have a row of inks that I use all the time, like black inks, VersaFine, and things like that. And I have a row on the side there for blank slots for me to stick some junk in.
Now stencils are next up on the chopping block. These are the same thing. I'm going to apply the same principle, holding one up, see does this bring me joy, can I think of a use for it, and have I used it in the last little while, yes or no, to help me make my decision. And just because I ask myself, have I used this in the last little while, and I say no, that's not my end deciding factor. Does it bring me joy, yes or no? This wreath builder I love, and I've been using it quite often, so this is definitely something that brings me joy, and I love how I can make perfect wreaths every time with this. So that's definitely a very useful thing to have in my craft room. For example, that does not bring me joy, so I love coffee stain stamps. I think they're really pretty, but I'm not a coffee drinker, and I don't do mixed media anymore, so this is kind of a useless stamp for me now, or a stencil for me now. So I know that this does not bring me joy, I do not have a use for it, and it's time to let go.
So I think now it's important to talk about my micro categories and how I did them. So feel free to take a screenshot if you want to use this as well. So I went through my stamps with you, I did a bit of inks with you, a bit of stencils. I kind of stopped there as far as footage goes because I didn't want to distract myself too much from the process. Dyes, I didn't part with too many. I find that I'm very conscientious when I use my dyes, and most of mine have a purpose. So the ones I always tend to keep are sentiments, and then those stacks dyes, like rectangles, circles, basic shapes, and things like that. I did purge several of my Christmas dyes because nobody on earth should have that many Christmas dyes, and really I tend to do my 12 Days of Christmas series every year, and even though I only got to day 7 this year, but I know that I always get new stuff for Christmas to show off the latest trends and the latest things that are available, so there's no sense in me keeping a ton of Christmas stuff on hand. For adhesive, I didn't get rid of really any of it. I just organized it differently, which you'll see in part 3's video. I kept one of each kind in my Alex drawers, and then I put everything else that were a refill or a replacement or extra, I put then off to the side in a bucket so that it didn't take up too much space in my drawer. Paper pads and cardstock I feel like I don't buy a lot of, so that was really easy. I actually got rid of 90% of my paper pads just because they're no longer available, they're retired, and they're useless for my videos because when I show video, I like to show things that are in stock and available in case people want to buy them. For foiling products, I moved down a little bit. I got rid of some of my machines because nobody needs 3 laminators. I then went into organization, so things like stamp pockets, labels, and all that stuff. Envelopes, obviously I didn't get rid of really any of those because those are a consumable. I had to go through my giveaways, what were realistic for giveaways, because some things obviously are expensive to ship, so I got rid of things like inks and things like that. Planner stuff, which obviously I generally use my planner on my phone, so I don't even know why I owned that stuff. Then I went through markers and pens and pencils. I did those in 2 separate steps because I had quite a bit. Washi tape, embellishments, sequins, alcohol inks, refills, and by that I mean things like foam refills, felt pad refills, and label maker refills, and ink refills. We are memory keepers, so all of those boards like planner punches and things like that. Watercolors, embossing powders, sprays, pastes, tools themselves. What do I own multiple of? Is it necessary to own multiple of them? I went through magazines and things that I use for inspiration. Do I really need those? Because really we realistically have everything online now. Nouveau drops were a big category for me. Then miscellaneous items, things I only have maybe one of. I have lots of things like sparkles and shimmer dust where I only have one thing or one color. Those all went at the end. And then at the last thing I did were cards, because I thought that moved me really nicely into step number 5 in the KonMari method, and that was getting rid of sentimental things. So I had to purge lots of cards because there's so many of them that had sentiments that I just thought, when am I ever going to send this? Okay, so as you can see, my purge pile was getting bigger and bigger throughout the process. I also want to mention quickly that in photo number 2, the 2 organizers that are there at the top, my watercolor organizer that I have homemade from the lovely Dina Benson, and my acrylic organizer, I didn't actually purge those. They were just off to the side until I found a place to use them, or to store them rather. And my purge pile was huge by the time it was done. It was literally 3/4 of the stuff that I have probably in total, as well as organizers and all of those things. And a lot of those boxes and things like that I ended up using for other storage in my room. So I really hope that you're enjoying this process. Don't forget that I do have mystery envelopes available if you're interested in purchasing any of my older stuff, or gently used, I should say. And as well, to be asking any questions that you have below in the comments, because I'm going to do a video on all of the questions and do my best to answer them if possible. Tomorrow I'm going to show you what my final craft room looks like, and I hope you enjoy that. And I will see you then. Bye-bye.